All right, so the Switch 2 has been revealed, but other than the way it looks, we really don't know anything about this system from Nintendo. But we did get a look at Mario Kart 9, or whatever they're gonna end up calling this new game. And there are some other people out here on the internet who have looked at this and have a pretty good idea about what type of power we're actually gonna be getting with the Switch 2. And if this all turns out to be right, I'm pretty excited, and you probably will be too. What's up, guys? Welcome back. Welcome in for the first time. Do me a favor, jump down in the description of this video. There's a link to our podcast down there. We do that live every Wednesday night right here on YouTube. You can watch it live or listen to it on the podcast platform of your choice. Make sure you check out the Discord. We are going to start game nights this weekend probably. And on your way back up, make sure you subscribe to this channel because a lot of people think they are and they're not. So, a few nights ago, I stumbled across this video from a channel called Sungrand Studios. Now, this guy is a developer. He has developed games on the 3DS, the Wii U, and the Switch. So he knows what he's talking about. He's done this before. This is not his first rodeo. He's got a pretty good idea of what the Nintendo Switch had to work with, what its limitations are, all the problems that developers had with the system. This guy knows about, and he took the Mario Kart 9, we'll call it, part of the Nintendo Switch 2 announcement trailer and kind of broke it down in little pieces. Now, I'm gonna talk about some of this. I'm gonna link his video down below so you can get the whole idea. This obviously is not my strongest area, but I've got some notes here from his video. I'm gonna go over basically what he said, but this is all really good. This is all telling us that this thing is going to have a significant amount of power compared to the original Switch. So I'll show you some screenshots here and kind of show you what he's talking about. But the first thing he really brought up was the fact that these scenes that we are seeing from Mario Kart 9 are using physically based shaders, which means, let's just say Mario, in this example, is getting reflections off the ground. You can see on the bottom part of him and his kart, there are reflections coming from the ground. There's warm tones in the shadows. That's coming from the ground. But basically, physically based shaders are kind of how a subject, let's say, again, Mario in this case, will throw shadows or reflections onto other things, and other things show shadows or reflections onto him. Now, this is not something that the Switch did very well at all. From what he's saying in this video, this is a very, the term he uses is expensive. He's talking about how taxing it is on the system to actually do this. He says this is a very expensive thing to do that the Switch was not very good at doing, that they are doing a whole lot of here. When you watch the video, you'll see how excited he is about it, especially towards the end. Again, somebody who has worked on the Switch and knows that this is a big deal. So that's one thing, but I've got a giant list of notes here. That's just the first thing. And another thing I do want to say too, which is very interesting, he also said in the beginning of the video that he has to be very careful about what he says because he is under NDA. This guy clearly knows some things. You know, he's not technically saying it in the video, but I don't think he'd be making videos about this and being as excited as he is about making games for the Switch 2 if he didn't know that good things were coming. Anyway, so we got our physically based shaders. He's saying on the Switch 1 you would have been dropping all kinds of frames trying to do this. You'd have been running at 15 frames per second, if that, if the game would even run when you did that much stuff, especially what they're doing on screen here, because he's saying everything is using physically based shaders. So that's a lot of stuff going on screen that the Switch could not handle in any way. Another thing he made a pretty big deal about was the textures and the amount of textures that were being rendered in the scene at the same time, and not only just textures, high resolution textures, and not on just the ground, the carts, the characters, on everything. Every single thing around the track, all the things in the distance, everything was using high resolution textures. So again, that's something else that Mario Kart 8 couldn't do, and a lot of other games on the Switch really couldn't do. That's kind of the fight that developers had, from what I'm understanding, is scaling things back like that, just scraping things away, trying to get it to run on the Switch at a decent frame rate. This is where the Switch has had problems. This is not going to be a problem anymore, from what he's saying. He's saying one of the biggest reasons for that is because the Switch probably does have 12 to 16 gigabytes of RAM, which is a significant amount more than the original Switch has right now. That's going to make a huge difference. The other thing he made a pretty big deal about, and he said this is huge, is volumetric lighting. I don't know exactly what that is, but basically it can give you a sense of fog in the distance. It's used for different types of light. Mario Kart 8, for the example he's using, doesn't use that. They use a thing they call bloom and distance fog, which I guess is different. Those are really easy to render. I guess those are not expensive to render. True volumetric lighting, which he's saying is happening in these scenes in Mario Kart 9, is very expensive to render. So we are dealing with something that clearly has a ton more power than the Switch. This thing is going to be very powerful, whether it's through upscaling with the DLSS stuff or whatever way they're doing this. This is gonna have a lot more power. Okay, there's a little bit more here. So again, he does kind of talk about this volumetric lighting. He's saying if you would do what they're doing here just with the lighting on the regular Switch, it would probably run about 15 frames per second, and that's just the lighting. That doesn't count anything else that's happening on screen. He said it would basically be impossible to do on the original Switch. So again, we're really going above and beyond what the Switch had, that's for sure. All right, so another thing he did mention was the real cloth simulation, which is another thing that is fairly expensive to render. He had another video where he was talking about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and with the flags that are up kind of everywhere you see through the game. Those are like pre-rendered animations. I guess those are really easy to do. The real-time cloth simulation is also very expensive. So that's just another thing showing that this Switch is doing a lot more. The whole video he made on the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet thing is actually very interesting too. He did point out a lot of the problems in that game and why we probably won't see those problems again on the Switch too. So this is all really great news. Another thing he mentioned was pop-in, but he was mostly talking about the shadows. And there's two things about the shadows you can notice. If you remember, or just go play your Switch right now, basically any game you played, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, you know, any of the Pokemon games, if you look at the shadows, they're really low resolution shadows. They don't look very good. They're blocky. They're just not very good. And there's a lot of times if you're far away from something, the shadows on things in the distance just disappear. In this footage we see, the shadows go basically as far as you can see, and they're not just like blocky, terrible looking shadows. They are like really detailed, nice, smooth shadows. So that's another thing, I guess, that's very expensive to render that the Switch 2 is doing a lot of, and with all the other things it's doing at the same time. My guess is this is being done with DLSS. I would guess, especially if what we hear is true, that this thing only has the power, the true power of a PlayStation 4. The upscaling is what's doing this, allowing them to be able to do all this rendering. Either way, this Switch is going to be way, way better than what we had. It's going to be miles better, clearly. I could tell after looking at it a few times that this looked good. This Mario Kart footage looked pretty good. But when you really break it down like that and you can see what the differences are and have somebody who really knows what they're talking about explain it to you, not me, him. And I'm gonna link that video below, but it really does get you excited. It really just shows you what we are in store for with this thing. Not only this, but third-party games that are gonna be coming to the system. All the leaks that are happening right now with the third-party games that are coming to this system. This is gonna be awesome. I'm really excited for the Switch 2. Let me know what you think about all this stuff down in the comments below. If you wanna check out his video, I will have it linked below, or I'll put it up here at the end so you guys can get to it easy. But that is gonna do it for this one, guys. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. Please leave a like. Make sure you are subscribed. We'll see you in the next one.